Let's, for the moment, though, concentrate on the situation, the terrible situation around Nagorno-Karabakh. The separatist leader of the self-declared state says their struggle for independence from Azerbaijan is over. We've been focusing through the week on the exodus of those who are now making their way into neighbouring Armenia. More than 70,000 ethnic Armenians are said to have left the disputed territory. That's well over half the population. Now, Karabakh had been controlled by Armenians for 3 decades. It was seized by Azerbaijan in a military operation last week, who say they want to reintegrate the people into Azeri society. But most, if not all, of those living in the enclave say they fear persecution and would prefer to live life in exile than under Azerbaijani rule. The Armenian Prime Minister, Nikol Pashinyan, accused Azerbaijan of conducting ethnic cleansing and has called on the international community to act.
The exodus of Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh as a result of Azerbaijan's ethnic cleansing policy continues. Analyses of the situation show that in the coming days there will be no Armenians left in Nagorno-Karabakh. This is an act of ethnic cleansing.
We can speak to our correspondent Rehan Dimitri, who is in Tbilisi for us this evening. The figures that we're getting, 70,000, are those official figures? How easy is it to count how many people are coming across?
Well, the Armenian authorities are counting the people, and the latest figure is even more, 74,000. They're saying that on average, it's up to 1,000 people that are being registered every hour. So these are the latest figures from the Armenian authorities, and we know that more people are trying to leave Nagorno-Karabakh. I've seen some pictures of more vehicles trying to leave. Also, the Armenian authorities announced that they're sending buses to help those who do not have their own cars to leave the enclave.
And what about the route these people are taking to the Azeri border? Is that safe? Are they being intimidated as they leave?
Well, they have to pass through at least 2 checkpoints. One checkpoint is in the Azeri town of Shushi, and the next one is right before they cross into Armenia proper. And yes, people, in some cases, vehicles are being kind of mildly searched. The Azeri authorities, they said that they don't want to let some of the members of the illegal government, as they say, Nagorno-Karabakh, to leave. And we know that some big figures have been arrested already. Yesterday, Ruben Vardanyan, who has been a state minister, he was actually a Russian citizen, and he renounced his citizenship, came to Karabakh last year. He was arrested. Now he has been placed into pretrial detention and is facing really serious charges, including funding terrorism. So another high-level official from Karabakh, David Babayan, he posted a message saying that he knows that he's on a blacklist, and he decided to hand himself over to the Azerbaijani authorities. Okay,
Rayan, stay there for us if you would, because joining us from the Armenian capital, Yerevan, is Politico's Gabriel Gavin. He's just returned from the border, where he's been talking to people coming across. I mean, enormous in numbers of children and older people mixed in with those pouring across the border. It's not a country, I don't suppose, Armenia, Gabriel, that can easily assimilate 100,000 people. Is there the sort of aid and support to be able to manage it?
Well, look, as you say, I've spent the last week on the border, and for the past 4 or 5 days, the cars, the trucks, the buses, loaded with whatever possessions people could get together at short notice, just haven't stopped coming. And people are arriving with almost nothing, making them extremely difficult to get settled. When the count was only 60,000, it's now 75. It's now 75,000 almost. Actually, the Armenian government told me that only 6,000, 10% of that number, had been actually rehoused. The vast majority of people are expected to stay with family, with friends, or to basically rent private accommodation themselves. But on the drive back to Yerevan tonight, I've just seen a string of vehicles running almost all the way to the capital with people's possessions loaded on top. And in many cases, people say that they don't think they will ever return home. So not only do they need short-term accommodation, they need homes for the long term. They need schools for their kids. They need psychosocial support after having come through 9 months of what people tell me felt like going through hell.
You're right. I mean, when you pause to think of what they've left behind, it's their businesses, their homes, their livestock, graves, their family members who are buried there. It's an extraordinary uprooting of humanity. How do they feel, these people that you're talking to coming across the border, about the role the Armenian government has played in this?
Well, I think just thinking about how they feel as they come across the border, full stop, there's a bittersweetness. I think the people who've come across after spending 24, 30 hours in some cases in their cars, they feel a huge sense of relief. They think, well, there's fuel, there's water, there's food, my kids are safe. But at the same time, as you say, they've left behind so much, and so much that, meant more to them than, I think it's possible for even for us to imagine. I mean, the sense of their belonging to the land, to the place, was really significant. I think people expect very little, I have to say. So I don't think people feel entitled to everything. When I've asked people, are you getting help? Are you getting support? The answer is often, no, I don't need anything. I will try and make my own way. So much so, I spoke to a volunteer who was handing out sandwiches to people who haven't eaten a square meal for weeks in some cases. And she said, it's really hard to explain to people that they don't need to pay. People are trying to give me money for these. They don't understand that we're trying to give them something for free. So there's really heartbreaking scenes that just show just how unused to the idea that these people have left their homes, how in shock they are. And one woman said to me, she said, I'm worried that dressed like this and with all my possessions, people are going to think I'm a refugee.
Rayhan, what about the way this is being viewed elsewhere in the Caucasus? When you think about South Ossetia and Abkhazia, other separatist groups in the Caucasus, are they feeling vulnerable at the moment? Are they watching this and thinking they might be next?
Well, the first thing to mention is that it's really astonishing that the Georgian government has not issued a single statement since this crisis began, since Azerbaijan's military operation last Tuesday. And this story is not really featured that much in Georgian media, which is really surprising, given that there are 3 countries in the South Caucasus: Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia. But yes, of course, we've heard news from breakaway territories of Abkhazia. In particular, these are the news that I've seen, that, of course, they are watching with great concern what's happening there in Nagorno-Karabakh.
Why? Because the Russians are looking the other way?
Well, because in some ways they are in a similar situation. But I think in Georgia's breakaway territories, the local governments feel perhaps more protected by Russia, because Russia recognized their independence, which was not the case in Nagorno-Karabakh.
Yeah, interesting. OK, we'll have to leave it there. Rayhan Dimitri, Gabriel Gavin, lovely to see you again. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.